All right, everyone, welcome back to Marketing in the Wild. This is where we go out into the world and see tidbits of agency marketing and advertising, and we bring it back and discuss how it impacts the market as a whole and potentially our dealings as an agency going forward. So let's get started. Eric, you found an interesting article about negative keywords in Google and Bing. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, just looking at what Google has been doing, over the entire course of their business, but just continuing to push people towards broader and broader match on keywords has made it really difficult if you're looking for a niche audience to not spend a bunch of money on things that are completely irrelevant. And obviously, that's Google's whole game. They're an advertising company. Search is just how they get us, the product, on the shelf, and then they want to put as many paid results as they can in front of us. Trying to deal with that has become really difficult. And I was just on the subreddit for pay-per-click, and just reading about a rant. This guy's trying to spend $100,000 per month on Google and Bing ads, and he's frustrated that he's had to create 3 separate negative keyword lists to try to get the junk out of his campaigns. And, obviously, a lot of the comments that follow on to this are maybe you're just trying to spend too much on a niche industry or service. The guy does financial software. Maybe it's more like 80K is going to get you the best bang for your buck. And we find the same things. I think one of our philosophies is we're not necessarily trying to get the first spot, because then you tend to be overbidding for words. You're trying to be above the fold. You're trying to be at the top of the page. But if you're the first keyword, sometimes that's an indication that you're overbidding and you need to pull back. And so that's what a lot of the responses to this were, but it's just becoming worse and worse. Another thing that has been obvious to us for a while is that even if you are only using exact match keywords, you are never going to get only those keywords to be served, to be the ones that are serving your ads, triggering your ads. So no matter what you do, you're going to need a solution for negative keywords if you want to get the junk out. One thing that we've found success with is creating a script that will automatically put those negative keywords into or put keywords onto a list, so that then you can filter the ones that are negative. And I did find a cool way to approach this, which is also noted on the subreddit here, called Ngram analysis. And that's really just finding the frequency of the words that you're targeting from your entire campaign. And then when you compare that to the clicks that you're getting for each one of those individual words, you can say, if I put, let's say the word in, if in is in my keyword, I don't get a lot of clicks on in. So that means in is associated with local searches. I shouldn't be targeting local searches so much. I shouldn't be, selling software in Boston, or, so maybe that's dragging my searches down. So I can start to eliminate those local searches by looking for in, or, other things that come up in the Ngram analysis that are high frequency, but low clicks. So a lot of interesting stuff in here, but obviously this guy is spending way too much money on his campaign would be my first analysis.
Gotcha. All right. Any comments from the gallery on this particular subject?
I mean, I don't know. This kind of infuriates me because it essentially eliminates Google AdWords as a good place for us to spend money in many cases. But it all goes down to, I think, Google has always been really good at allowing companies to spend money very easily on their ads. And, unless you go to the report that shows exactly what searches are triggering your ads, you'll have no idea, because, the fact that an exact match is no longer an exact match, I feel like is really dishonest. And you know, I recognize that in the greater scheme of things, we and our clients don't spend a lot of media spend, but like it's really driving us away
Mhm.
from Google AdWords, which at one point was a really great place for us to spend money.
Yeah, and as you pointed out, the most simple thing that anybody can do is monitor what is spending the most money on your campaign. Just sort your search terms by the money spent, and typically you're going to have to remove a couple, every week, every few days, you'll find one that's starting to spend more that's just completely irrelevant.
An important point
Yeah.
that it's not the keywords that are triggering the ads, it's the actual searches that trigger the ads, because those used to line up, they no longer do.
I was going to ask Eric, I mean, you're the one who typically handles this. I feel like in the past, especially when we get started with new clients, you often go in and find that you kind of have to do maybe an audit of what's going on, because people will often set it and forget it and not do those that like keyword adjustments. And I feel like more and more we're getting more emails of like, we made this automatic optimization. Like, how often are you feeling like those optimizations are actually valid, or it's just another one of, trying to get people to spend more?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it's obviously there because people want an easy button, right? They just want to be able to push the button, and it is completely a marketing tactic on Google's part where they can just say, "Yeah, you said that you wanted the most possible clicks. Great. We can absolutely do that for you because we happen to charge per click." So, if you want a quote unquote performance max campaign, we are going to put all the most broad possible filters. You sell shoes, what about roller skates, right? That sort of thing.
People with feet. Would you want people with feet in your ads?
Yeah. Are you into podiatry?
Well, I mean, and that is probably the most frustrating thing, right? Like a lot of our clients our prospects will come with very specific ads. Like they're like, this is clearly only aimed at 0.0001% of the population. But the reality is people will click on anything. Like they click on the ad before they read it, assuming it's going to be relevant because of what they searched. And that's often not the case. So if you're trying not to talk to consumers, for instance, guess what? They're definitely going to click on your ad anyway.
And now all of those tools that are pushing you to broad match, actually, there's a really easy way to tell if you're being bamboozled. If it says, "Would you like AI to do this for you?" then what that button does when you click it, you'd think that it was going to just, as I said, set all your matches to broad. But for me, it just crashes my computer. My browser shuts down completely. So, yeah, the AI overlords have not figured that part out yet. But that's a good way to tell if you're about to be taken.
All right. Let's move on, shall we? All right, Rich, don't apologize. This is the one that led you to unsubscribe from this particular newsletter.
Yeah, so I subscribe to a number of lists, including ones that come from various wine companies. And, I just generally disregard them unless there's something of interest to me. And I guess these guys had sent out a bunch of emails, including ones that they didn't intend to, or they didn't realize how many they were sending in a row. So then they sent another email apologizing for all the emails that they had sent. And I didn't read or notice the other ones they sent, but I noticed this one, and it was actually what got me to unsubscribe. So, if you make a mistake in your email marketing, don't apologize for it. It's just one more thing cluttering up somebody's email. Most people won't have noticed, and those that do, you can respond to them personally. But to spam your list for spamming is not a great idea. No offense to Claudine, I think they have nice wine.
Rich, I think this also plays into a lot what we've been talking about lately with our clients and mid-funnel nurture. No reply is no reply. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like that's a neutral best case scenario. What you don't want is the unsubscribe. So I think that like, even though this is obviously more consumer and wine, like on our side, that we've been talking about that a lot lately.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, up until my hitting the unsubscribe button, which this email prompted, I was still, I was subscribed to it because I was thinking about, pulling the trigger and trying some of their wine. And, no answer is no answer. And very often it's like they're in the consideration phase. And what that might last weeks, it might last months, it might last years. But the unsubscribe button is available to all of us. And that's means they're not interested.
Feels long, doesn't it? It's a long one.
Yeah.
Quite a read.
Yeah, I was trying to remind myself like what it was about it that had actually triggered me to read it.
Yeah, yeah. And she, it feels like I'm getting a Christmas card, an annual that I haven't seen, my family in a couple of years. And so
Yeah.
now, okay, how are your kids? Let's find that paragraph.
A Christmas card that starts off with, "I'm so sorry I haven't sent you a Christmas card the past 5 years." You're like, oh.
Yeah, don't unsubscribe. I love you. Please call your father.
All right.
Call your parents.
Yep. Speaking of AI, Eric, talking about customer service. AI is customer service. Do we like, do we not like? How do we feel about it?
Yeah, I mean that's a good summation of what I was sort of thinking. There's a couple of things on this particular piece of software. First of all, I think everybody who's in marketing or has been, looking at any kind of software solutions over the past 6 months has gotten an AI chat support bot. And it's interesting to me to see whether they tell you that they're a chatbot or whether it's got a little avatar that, looks like Veronica in Santa Monica. So that's one part of it. Just wondering if that's effective and how it can be made effective, because it's not going away, obviously. Customer support is something that nobody wants to pay for. And if an option like this exists, I think some large percentage of companies, especially with digital offerings, are always going to be doing this. It's only going to get more prevalent. So what's the most effective way to do it? And then secondarily, I just thought that this was interesting because it also opens up these tools and the chats that customers are having. It opens up the ability to engage with that information to the salespeople, and it puts another arrow in their quiver to parse the information. And I think that's actually much more handy and sort of useful to kind of turbocharge their ability to parse data, especially data that's freely available from these very top of funnel leads who are just trying to engage and maybe not even necessarily talk to a person. So I was wondering what you guys thought about these AI customer service bots.
I personally think it really depends if I have access to a person. Like, I think AI chatbots, when you're having that first engagement and they're like, "Give me your name, I can look up this, I can try to answer your questions," that's all well and good. But like, if I'm just being fed articles from the help center by your AI chatbot, I'm just getting annoyed. And personally, by the time I'm at that point, like, I know I want to talk to somebody, and I'm somebody who never wants to talk to anybody. Like, I will go far and wide to avoid talking to a person. So if I've gotten to the point where I want to and I can't, I would say it makes me more frustrated and irritated than like, "This is cool." Like, I'm just like, "No, I've looked through the help. I've done this already. Like, I need to speak to an actual person."
I find them super annoying because I just want written documentation if I'm using, like HubSpot or any sort of SaaS, and that and then immediately have this thing popping up when it's like, I don't know, like, give me a chance to read your documentation. And I think also we've all been so trained that, the nightmare customer service phone tree, it just feels like now that's on my computer. And, it just like, why do I want to spend, 2 minutes, much less 10, training your stupid chatbot? But then I also think that unfortunately, reflecting the first slide of the just general and bleepification of everything, that not engaging with the chatbot is going to mean that the documentation is going to get worse because only the people willing to engage with the chatbot will be having influence on how the documentation is written.
Mhm. I think you can say the word, Susan, and I think it's actually relevant here. So the term of art is the enshittification of everything.
It's also interesting because I forgot about this because I was so frustrated by the entire situation. I gave up, but I think really relevant to our clients and B2B and high consideration, like I had to literally try and beg to have a demo of a product. Like I had figured out everything I'd wanted to figure out from their website, and all I wanted was for a human being to walk me through the platform, which in my mind is like the ultimate goal of a lot of SaaS companies. And the fact that they were basically just like, no, we don't want it. Like, it was so frustrating to me. I'm like, isn't this what you want? Like, I work in marketing. This is what we want. You don't want to have an opportunity to sell to me directly. And I ultimately just gave up even researching the solution because I was like, if you don't want to talk to me, then I'm not going to buy from you.
I remember the experience that actually made me find this software, and it was the most surreal customer service experience I've ever had. I was trying to place some advertising in sort of a syndication with blogs in a niche. And I couldn't find information to contact them about advertising options. There was no link that was obvious to me. And so I went down to the chat bot. It said, it prompted me, hey, do you need help with something? I see you're looking around, right? And so I said, yeah, I'd like to talk to somebody about how to place advertising. And they said, you need to talk to Robert. His email address is, and then in brackets, it said redacted. And then it said, or you can call him at, and it gave me a phone number. And I was like, I guess I'm hopping on the phone with Rob. So I called the number and I got a customer service automated message that also used AI voice that said, hello, welcome to New York Hair. I believe it was called New York Hair, some kind of publication about hair in New York. And the niche that I was looking up had nothing to do with hairstyles. So I don't know if that was the biggest AI fail that I've seen so far, or if they're just running a really wacky sort of business, that's got many layers to it that I have not been able to peel back yet. So,
Front.
yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm a little less grumpy than the rest of you guys about the AI bot. Like, as long as I get to pick, right? Like, I think, which is what Jen said. Like, there are times that I know I want to talk to a human, and my ideal situation is a chat bot that says we have humans available or we don't have humans available, so that like if I need to talk to a human, I can either make an appointment to talk to a human or I can talk to a human. But there are times that I'm perfectly happy to interact with the documentation via chatbot. So,
Yeah. Order number,
don't force me. Like, don't make
tracking.
me give my name and this and that and all of that. Like, let me talk to a chatbot or let me talk to a human, but don't make me repeat myself.
Just ask me, are you in a hurry? Are you embarrassed about what you're asking?
Alrighty. LinkedIn CTV. This is something that we talked about based on the availability of targeting and whether it matches the supply. So Rich, why don't you kick it off?
Yeah, so CTV has been around for a long time now, and every time we've kind of dipped into it, we're like, the targeting is not good enough for our use case. The targeting is not good enough for our use case, and so now, like, with LinkedIn offering the same sort of targeting that we often utilize for a lot of our B2B advertising, it feels like the targeting may be good enough, but downstream, like, will it deliver? And so, we talked about doing some experiments. So any of you out there, if you get a 6-second advertisement from Glass Canopy, let us know, because I have my doubts. Like, whenever I see indications of targeting, and I don't get that much advertising, but like, it thinks I'm in Sacramento, or in one case, in Illinois, much less. I'm not at all convinced it knows what I do for a living. So we'll see.
I think my question here is how well is it matched? Like when you're thinking about other types of devices, it's much more like one to one. Like often, a cell phone belongs to an individual person. But when you're talking connected TV and you're talking whole households, how precise, how precise is that advertising? Like, yes, they have it, but is it really showing to who you think you're showing, which is, a problem that traditional TV had, who's watching the TV? Like you have certain
Right.
demographics of like the prime time commercials, but like you don't really know.
Yeah, like it'd be great if there was a opportunity to like not advertise when Blue's Clues is on, for instance, for most of our customers. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting. Like, TV ads have dominated advertising for 60 years. So if we can get really precise around it, it'll be interesting to see how that works.
Yeah, the rollout of this was fairly quiet, it felt like. And I am really eager to see LinkedIn continue to develop its capabilities as a platform. Spotify is another one. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more crossover there because they're desperate to figure out how to be profitable. So really, really interesting development here. And yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes because I do think that this could work really well, as we've talked about, for things like conferences. Targeting, coupling this with geolocation could be really valuable.
I mean, Spotify is an interesting example, right? Like in ways, I think I would rather, for most of our use cases, have a Spotify ad than an ad on Roku. You think about like hitting, if you're targeting SMB to be on the office radio station, that could be really powerful compared to say showing somebody an ad for a SaaS product to a 4-year-old watching Blue's Clues.
I feel like this is an interesting play because there's only 60 seconds, in between for the ad spaces, and they can divide it in how many different intervals that they can. Are we just going to be outbid? Is it just going to be Google Ads, but not as ubiquitous because there's only so much time that we can fill with advertising? Like, are we always going to be outbid?
Is it just going to be more Coca-Cola ads?
Yeah, exactly.
Taking all the space.
Well, that's an interesting point, and I think I'm seeing that in another really coveted media space, which is in-flight advertising, back of seat advertising. I was looking into this, and so far seems like I'm being completely ignored because I think there's about 12 companies that say, I think that we'll buy that, thank you. I think that's I think that we are being outbid in that particular medium. And I think it's a good point. It very well could be the case here.
Maybe it's, and again, reflecting the first slide, that we need to think about context instead of targeting.
I still think there's something really powerful, though, just at least for the novelty value of being hit with a well-placed B2B ad, while you're streaming your evening TV shows, and something 15 seconds, just to reinforce the brand on another platform. And maybe it will be a very short-lived phenomena, right? Like, I mean, when banner ads first existed, like, they had like 25% click-through rates because we were like, ooh, someone put a banner in front of me. I wonder what this is. I don't know.
wonder
Put ourselves on the targeting list and see if we ever see an ad to ourselves.
I was going to say, I'm thinking, we always talk about the benefits of geo-targeting in relation to conferences. And I'm just thinking, like, what if there's eventually some way where you can layer the CTV ads partnered with the hotels who are running the CTVs in your hotel room when you're at the conference that's happening at that hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they have their own
home.
platforms now.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there's that.
You mean on the TVs within the hotel rooms?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that inventory available, like on a?
Yeah, that's my understanding. Yeah, I think that could be great because again, that's context based, as Susan was saying, and I do think that's where I see a lot more of the meat on this bone, so to speak, as we run into more privacy stuff. It's going to be less about who they are and more about what they want.
Yeah, I just, for all of this though, I kind of wonder like what the appropriate inventory is going to be. Like, I don't see much in the way of advertising in my connected TV life. I know that that's changing, like they're bringing ads like the Roku home screen, for instance. But, when I go to a conference, I don't ever turn on the TV in the hotel room. And I'm
I
not
only have
typically there.
disconnected TV.
What's that?
I only have disconnected TV. I'm living in the past.
All right. Well, I think it'll be interesting to see, what we can do with this old platform that is new again.
Yep.
All right. That's all, folks. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.